just make it a little bit more lighter touch than what you maybe were planning on doing, because that one should be fairly fresh in people's minds. Then again, I appreciate not everybody who joined 2 weeks ago might be on this session today, so just one for you to bear in mind.
Yeah, I'll have that in context. So yeah, as you said, I'll lightly touch that topic. I'll be more interested in showing people how to navigate the logs, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
How they retrieve it, I think it's all down to the tools. And if you think that people have got the knowledge, I might refer on to a page which was recently created on AWS, how to get extracted, because I could see there was something missing there and people used to fumble around a bit while getting AWS logs. So I'll just have a quick kind of pointer to that page if anybody viewed AWS logs, and that should help them out.
Yeah, that's perfect. And if there is any reference material, Confluence pages, anything like that you go through on this session, Samanta, if you could also send them to me, because I'll attach any links and documents that you cover in this session to the drop-in Confluence page so that people can go back and refer to it. So anything that you've got that you can send me would also be really helpful. But there's no rush on that.
Sure. It makes sense, Ben. I'll do that after the session, yeah.
Cool. All right, Sam. Well, we're almost 5 minutes in, so I think we're good to make a start. So take it away, Samanta. Thank you very much.
Okay, Clint. Okay. Let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yep.
You are. Okay, cool. So basically, I would first like to visit on how can we retrieve logs. So basically, we know we have got gateway environment, which is currently a combination of WAS and AWS environments. We have, I think, more than 20 WAS environments, starting from CITL 1 to all the way up to RIG 20. I don't know what the current count is, but we have got a lot of WAS environments. And then we have also got AWS environments where the gateway is deployed onto AWS, and they have been set up in such a way which kind of complement the WAS environments. So there is generally an AWS equivalent to a WAS environment. And when I say equivalent, that environment uses the same database as in Gateway WAS. So both the WAS and the AWS environment kind of use the same database. So I think generally when the request comes, that an issue happens, is the first thing that we get provided is the environment. That's the absolute crucial thing that we need to focus on, because there is a lot of environments. Yeah, when the issue happens, the first thing that we want to know is which environment it is. If you talk about WAS environments, then I generally refer on to this page, which I've been using for quite a long time, which provides a very good view of all the SIT environments and their log locations. So you can see here, it has like gateway, get stuff apps, PDReg, there's something called payment gateway as well. So, but if you notice, the one which generally is used most often for is the BNB mobile gateway, and there is a logs location for each of those environments, which is basically here for CITL 1, and then you've got one for CITL 2, so forth for the environments here. So this is my go-to page for in case of if I need the location for logs for say WAS environment. Yeah. So so the manner in which we need to retrieve the logs is pretty straightforward. It's just a hyperlink. So for example, if I go to this environment called RIG 18, I would just hover up to this location. I would just go to the logs and boom, it opens up. So now it has got, by default, it opens up the log location for the logs that are being captured today. Yeah, so these are active today. There are some parent directories where you can get archive logs, but by default, it opens up the location where you can get the logs as of today. Yeah. So here you will see a lot of files here. I'm not going to go through all of the files. The ones that makes most of the sense and most predominantly used in our issue investigation are the coactivity logs, which are denoted by coactivity. Then we have something called co-event logs, and then we have got something called co-sublogs. So co-activity logs are nothing but essentially the logs of the input and the output of the operation. So they log the ins and outs of each operation that the app calls on the FAT gateway. Yeah. So any request coming from the app and the gateway responding back, whether it can be success or failure, will be logged in the co-activity logs. So ideally, when it comes to issue investigation, for me, co-activity logs become the start point, because I don't want to delve deeper into the issue. First, I want to know what ops were called. So I'm basically interested to see what ops have been called by that particular app. So when you come up with a issue saying that for this particular number, this particular test data, an error occurred, for example. Yeah. So my first point of investigation would be the co-activity log, because this will give me the exact time, what all ops were called, what was the sequence of ops that were called for that particular test run, and it will also give me at what point did that particular error occur, or it can be also might well is what that operation returned in the response to the app for that particular test run. So coactivity would be my first place to look at. If I want to dig deeper and I know what the operation returned, yeah, the operation might have returned a quad 02, which is a failure. It can have a success response, but it's missing some data in its response. And I want to investigate what that operation is doing. Then I would look for the sublogs, which are basically the application logs, which the application is churning out for each and every operation. This is basically our code in our operations, which is basically churning out logs, informational logs. And this ideally should tell you what that app operation is doing. If the developers have logged, have put substantial amount of loggers, the sublogs should tell you what that operation is doing. So if that operation is making a call to an API, or it is doing some kind of check which failed, the sublogs should actually tell you that, because it's the internal workings of that operation. So sublogs become important if you want to know what's happening inside that particular operation. Yeah. And then we have the event logs. So the co-event logs are generated by the MTS libraries. When I say MTS libraries, if we are making any call to transactions, so Gateway has a method to call transactions by using MTS libraries. These are libraries provided by MTS, and they deal with predominantly calling mainframe transactions. It can be custom retrieve transactions, membership retrieve transactions. There are many transactions that the Gateway calls. If you want to see what's happening with that transaction, you would want to look at the co-event logs, because all the MTS libraries, they basically publish all their logs in this file, in the co-event log. Yeah. So suppose you're doing investigation, you looked into a particular op which is failing, you looked into the sublogs, and then you find out it's saying that customer retrieve failed. Yeah, it will have some kind of logger saying retrieve a customer failed. Yeah, which basically indicates that the customer retrieve transaction might have failed. Then, if you are interested in looking what the mainframe is sending you back for the transaction, if the transaction is timing out or the transaction is behaving in an odd way, this log would be the one that will tell you what's happening. Yeah, so it only co-event logs again don't get used very often unless and until it's a mainframe issue. If the mainframe transactions are working fine, then mostly it's the activity and sublogs which help you in investigating what's the problem. So generally, if you are attaching or retrieving logs, the crucial part is getting the activity and sublogs around that time, because that tell most of the story of what's happening. Yeah. So let me let me tell you how exactly you can do that. So I have downloaded some logs. So the download part is very, very easy. You just need to right click on it, right click on a particular file, save as, and save. Is as simple as that. Yeah. And for this session, sorry, I forgot to mention it. I'm mostly using Notepad++, which is my go-to tool to analyze any logs. I find it most useful. And since we know the gateway logs are like in MBs, I think that's the only tool which helps me in opening up these files and scrutinizing those files. So if you don't have Note++, I would request you to have that tool. It's a tool authorized by Barclays, so you can very well have it on your systems, and it does help me. And I think a lot of developers use it to scrutinize the logs or triangulate the issue on the logs. So the downloading part is.
Sorry, while you are on screen, I mean, before you go to the log file, just to add, we have got the numbers you see right in the COSUP logs, like few of the files are postfixed by the numbers. So these basically mean the larger is the number, the older is your file, because the logs get rolled over after 75M. So if you're looking for a particular timestamp, you have to download that particular file.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Komal. So yeah, so these timestamps basically indicate at what point the logs rolled over. Yeah, so if you're looking for a log, for example, the time of that particular issue is at 10:34. Yeah, then you can see that this log rolled over at 9:23, so it stopped having anything beyond 9:23, and this log basically stopped rolling after 10:36. So your log should be present in this particular file, which is at 10:34. Yeah, because it's falling between this. So this log we didn't have that because at 9:23 it rolled over, and this log rolled over at 9:36. So your log, if you're looking at 9:34, this is the file which will most probably have your log. Yeah, so that's how you can figure out, like Komal said, you can figure out which file to download based on what time you are looking for.
Yeah, it's probably worth mentioning at this point to all the testers, this is one of the main reasons why we're KTing this out, because when a tester is to raise a defect, if the gateway team, for example, if we don't pull the logs as the test team and attach them to the defect, then the gateway team might not be able to pick up on this straight away. And certainly one of the challenges on the WAS side is that because these logs roll over so quickly, certainly more so in the more used environments, you'll find that by the time, if we don't do this ourselves, by the time a gateway developer does get to look at it, it might mean that the logs have gone away and you'd have to retest the issue again. So this is one of the main drivers as to why we want to do this within tests. It'll overall bring down the defect, the average time defects are open. It'll also help the gateway developers out a lot with initial triage, all this good stuff. So just bear that in mind.
Thanks, Matt. That's absolutely the point, because we want to reduce the latency, and we know whenever, as you rightly said, in certain WAS environments, because of the amount of testing that happens, specifically in automation environments, the logs roll over quite fast. So if we manage to capture the logs at the right time, and if we can get the coactivity and the sub logs as a minimum around the time when I've downloaded some for my benefit. So as you can see on my screen, I have the activity logs open in front of me. And one of the things we generally ask for is whenever something like this happens, we ask for the phone number. And there is a very good reason why we do that, because we kind of use it to find out what are the operations that has been performed with that number for that particular time. So again, a combination of when you're providing data, when you're looking for logs, testers sometimes use the same number for various test runs, So it cannot be only just the phone number. It also has to be the time when the test was done, because we want to capture that exact scenario. And then additional details like customer data, which can also help us triangulate what we are looking for. So for example, how I generally approach an issue. Yeah, someone said that there is a problem that is happening and you have got a phone number for that. Yeah. So suppose we have a number like this, right? So suppose the number is this that we have got in the logs. This is the number that was used. So I want to know what has happened with this phone number. So it's very easy. So if you go on Notepad++, what I'll possibly do is I'll look for any traces of this number in this document. So what I'll do, I'll just find this number and I will say find all in the current document. And what this will give me, if you look down, this gives me a search result which shows me all that has happened, the ins and outs of what has happened on this particular number. Yeah, so it shows all the ops, it shows the ins and outs, it shows what time that happened, at what exact time that particular thing happened. So for example, I am interested on what happened for this particular number at 9:20:11. Yeah, that's the time I want to have a look what's happening. So it's very easy. I just click on one of these. I just double click on one of these, and now I can see this is the time when this particular call happened, when this number was active on this particular environment. Yeah. Now from this point onwards, I know I have triangulated the time that I want for this number, and I know that this is where the logs start from. But there is a crucial thing to remember, guys. Some of the ops don't necessarily log the phone number. Yeah, so it cannot be your only point of reference. Yeah, what you can have is once you've got the phone number and you've got the activity logs, you will see something coming up here. Yeah, this is the AID. Yeah, this gets logged for each of the ops that get called for this particular, when this particular device registration was alive. So this will be appended for each of the logs. Yeah. So once I've got the AID, this is my unique registration. And this becomes quite imperative that I have this, because I can use this to find more information into the BNB database, look into the registration tables, look at the kind of registration. So this gives me a lot of info. And I know this is a unique one. Yeah, you cannot have the same AID being used across multiple numbers. Yeah, though you can have the same number used across multiple AIDs. Yeah, so you want to triangulate on your AID. Once you have got your AID, then I would do the similar kind of search and I would try to look for it in my current document. Yeah, now this shows me all the activity that has been happening for this AID, and which is quite some time. So it has started from 8:31 and it stopped at 9:21 for this particular log file, for this particular time range. So whatever that is, this log file has got, it's saying that from 8:30 the activity started happening for this AID, and it stopped logging at 9:21. Now this may be because the registration ended, all activity stopped happening on this AID at this point of time, or it might be the case that the log rolled over at 9:21 because it approached 75 MB and it went to the next log file. It can be any of those cases. Yeah. So once you have that, now we know these are all the ops. Now you can see in here, it's telling a story, isn't it? It's calling A401A, the ins and outs, then it's calling A401B, then it's got two calls to SPR01, which are operations which call the secure gateway, which call any experience API. So any experience API, when it gets called from the BNB gateway, it's bound to be SPR01. This is the op that calls any experience API. Then you've got some ops called A0002, and then there is a P8000. So this gives you a fair amount of information on what ops were called at these particular times. Yeah. Now, so having this extract for this AID, for the activity logs, if you can triangulate that, then this log will essentially, when you attach this will essentially tell you and the developer what all has happened for that particular AID. Yeah. Now, if you are interested, sometimes the issue can be that very often we got a code 02. So you're on the app, you're expecting something to work fine, and boom, you got code 02. Now what that code 02 is. So with issues like that, what you can do again is you can definitely use the same search pattern, and you can start looking for a code 02. Yeah. So if you do a search like this, obviously it's going to churn up a lot of things which match a code 02 in your logs. But I am interested in the ones where the code 02 is published here. Yeah. So it's basically just around here where the code 02 is. This basically tells that the op threw an error. Basically it threw an code 02. This is what I am looking for. Yeah. So when I'm looking for a code 02, it will show me all instances where that code 02 happened. And now suppose you are interested in a code 02 that happened at this time, around 8:50:07. So it's telling me there is a code 02 at 8:50. So I just need to hover in here, and now if you see, the code 02 will appear on the out log. So this is the SPR01. If I triangulate on the AID, this highlights and tell me that this is the in request for the SPR01. This is the request coming from the op. This was the number. So you can also verify is that the test that you did, because you might recognize the number. And then this is the AID. So if you're not even sure that this is the number you used, you can simply use this AID. If you have got read access to the database, you can just look up this AID in the registration table, and it should give you the name of the customer. That's another way you can validate if that's the log you need. Yeah. So what this log is telling me is that there was a call being made to SPR01 which failed with a code 02. Yeah. And every code 02 is also associated with an error code. So in this case, it's SP042. Right? This is the error code that is coming up from this particular op. And now it also tells there have been recent logging improvements. So in case of SPR01, you will actually see that it tried calling this API. This is the Hello.
Hi.
So Akshata, me and Sukanya. And we have also got secure proxy error codes. Now, since this was an SP01 operation, this is what we call a secure proxy operation. And this returns a list of specific error codes. In this case, it was an SP042. So this link will provide you all the error codes that SPR01 or a secure gateway might throw. So if I look for SP042, it tells me successfully called the API, but the response contained one or more errors. And it gives me some more information, but it definitely tells me that the API is not behaving accordingly. Yeah, there is some problem with the API. So this tells me if any problems, these error codes tell me different scenarios and when a problem happens with the SPR01 operation. Yeah. Now, and the same pattern, now that's for SPR01, but the pattern does not change. For example, if this is a code 02 coming from a different op, you basically need to follow the same method of investigation. Yeah. In this case, I can't see any other code 02s in this environment other than SPR01s, because I think most of the secure gateway features get tested here. But for example, let's see another scenario. I've heard that a lot of times, XYZ feature is not appearing on my device. I'm not able to see that feature. Yeah. We know in gateway, most of the features are switch driven. That's a well-known fact. So, and every feature is behind a switch. Yeah. So if you want to find out whether that particular feature is not available, so that intrinsically tells me, is the feature even available on that environment? Is the feature switch even there for that environment? And if is it coming as on? So in that case, what you're probably looking for is an op called C001A. Yeah. So what you would do is you would look for that particular number again. Yeah. I look for the number. Right. And then I have got the number here. Yeah, it tells me all the operations that have been called for this number. But as I said, I want to triangulate on my EID. So I'm looking for a log around the time 6:43 that you did the test. So I go there and I find there is a call for this particular number and there is a EID that is there. Yeah, and again, using the process that I mentioned, you can validate, is this the EID that you're looking for and the test that you did. So I'll triangulate the logs using this EID. And I'm interested to know whether this particular EID has got a certain feature enabled. So I start looking for C001A for this particular EID. And there you go. So there is a C001A. So I just looked for a C001A in my search results. It just tells me for this particular EID, there was C001A called around at 6:44. Yeah. And here you have got the response. So the C001A is one of the largest, I think it's got the largest response in BNB because it got a lot of things. It got app policies, it got switches. So what you can do to make your life easier, just copy the JSON bit in this response. You move it over to a new page on Notepad++, and Notepad++ also provides a plugin called JS Tool. Yeah, you can format it, and now it becomes more readable. Yeah, so you can see the response in a JSON format coming from C001A. And what you're interested for, you want to look at a particular feature which is available in this environment. So you are basically interested in something called, I think it calls app policy. I'm forgetting the name. Just let me scroll down. Yeah, this is the place. Scroll a bit more. Yeah, this is app function. Sorry, it's app functions. So this is an array of app functions. This tells you all the features. So these functions stand for the switches, and the switches basically that to regulate a particular feature. So if you happen to know what that feature is and the switch name, and you can also figure that out. Suppose if you want to know, don't know what that feature is, you can try to find it on Confluence or maybe check someone from the app teams based on which switch that particular feature gets rendered. Yeah, if you know that fact, then it becomes easier to look. So for example, if you know that the feature is behind the switch FININB, then you know this is coming as off, which basically explains why you couldn't see that particular feature. Yeah, then you can go into the gateway environment, you can look into the function environment table. There are a list of tables, but essentially you want to see whether that switch is basically on in that environment. And if you find out that the switch is on and still is coming as off, that is where you need the sublogs, because that will tell, the sublogs will tell for that particular C001A. So I am now wondering why this function is coming as off. So what the hell C001A is doing with this switch? So at this point, it will be imperative to understand or retrieve the C001A logs for the sublogs for this particular operation. So I go into my sublog here, yeah, and I look for C001A. Yeah, so it gives me all the times that C001A has been called in this particular log. There's a few times here, and Let me see if I get more instances in here. Yeah, this is much better. So if you see here, the same search results on SUP tell you a bit of a more story on this. So you can see a C001 call, a C001A call happened for this number at around 8:24, and it completed at this time around at 8:17. So this started at 8:17:42 and ended at 8:17:45. And what all it did inside this operation must be captured in this time period. Yeah. So if I look into here, it will show you all the response coming from C001A. This will have all the information coming back from C001A, and it will also have the other logs which C001A is churning out as part of its application logs. So everything is in there. So if you can narrow down this piece, you know this is a C001A log. Looking at the activity logs, it's the same time as in the activity logs. You know you've got the SUP logs for this particular instance. So all you need is you can basically highlight this portion of the SUP log and you can extract it, basically copy paste it into another file, and then you can attach it to the defect. Yeah, and it can be referenced and it can be used by someone who wants to read through the logs. But essentially, this is the SUP log. This is showing you the SUP log within this time period, and this giving a search view of that. Yeah. So now this log is all what we will have in C001A. So you can triangulate the log, go from this line, just do a select here, and basically once you are in this line, you can do a select here, and you can select the entire thing and extract it in your logs, and you can then attach it to your defect. So now you have got the activity logs and SUP logs. So you have got what the operation received in the request, what all activity was performed as for the activity logs. So the developer might be also interested that what all ops were called before C001A. So you have that in your activity logs. It shows you the sequence of all the logs, all the things that happened for that AID, and all the operations that were called. And you've also got what happened inside that operation as part of your SUP logs. Yeah. I'll make a stop here. Does anybody have any questions? Up till now.
Nothing from me, thank you, buddy.
Okay.